The mikvah, which means collection, something hoped for and expected, or confidence, is a pool of clear water used in Judaism to immerse any object that has become defiled, including the human body. Levite priests would immerse themselves into the mikvah, and all the worshippers were required to do so as well before entering the Temple Mount. In modern Orthodox Judaism, there is a widespread practice for men to immerse themselves on the day prior to Yom Kippur, also known as the Day of Atonement, when Israel had a temple. All Kohen or priests were required to immerse in a mikvah during consecration. During Yom Kippur, the high priest did the mikvah after sending away the Azazel goat, as well as the priest who led the goat away. The required volume of water for a mikvah must be at least 40 seahs, but can be larger, and it must be filled with living or flowing water and not drawn from a stagnant source. Working backwards, the volume of one mikvah is 40 seahs. One seah equals 6 cabs. A cab equals 4 logs, and finally, a log is comprised of 6 eggs. The egg is the smallest unit of volume used by the ancient Hebrews. In the light of the meaning of mikvah, something waited for or hoped for, it is also symbolically represented as a unit of time. The average human hand can hold 3 eggs, and the total that a human could carry then was the definition of a cab equaling 6 eggs. A mikvah equals 5,760 eggs, and that number 5,760 is very important. Every use of the mikvah has something to do with removing corruption, sustaining life, or removing corruption to enter life. The mikvah points to the Messiah. O Lord, the hope of Israel, all that forsake thee shall be ashamed, and they that depart from me shall be written in the earth, because they have forsaken the Lord, the fountain of living waters. Jeremiah 17:13. Can a river be a mikvah? If the river's source is from springs coming from the ground, yes. If the river dries up occasionally and only flows because of the rain, no. The Jordan, or Yarden, to descend, river has the requirements for mikvah since its source are the springs flowing from Mount Hermon. The Hebrew meaning for the name Hermon, like many others involved with the early actions of the Nakash, are revealing. Hermon means a sanctuary, from the root karam, to ban, devote, utterly destroy, completely destroy, dedicate for destruction, exterminate, to prohibit, to consecrate, devote, dedicate for destruction, to be devoted, be forfeited, to split, mutilate. The Sidonians called Mount Hermon Shirion, which means breastplate. But the root meaning of Shirion is to let loose, or in the bad sense, to desert or abandon. The Bible mentions the descent of the Watchers. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children unto them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. Genesis 6:4. At the end of the event in the garden that separated man from God, the Nakash became the king of the earth, and was allowed to do what he willed in the realm of the corruption he instigated. The Nakash and his cohorts did indeed have a physical location on the earth where they first touched down. From the Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth, the extra-biblical text known as the Book of Enoch, written by Enoch, the great-grandfather of Noah, gives an account of this incursion of the Watchers. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw, and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Shemyaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty for the great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. And they swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by a mutual imprecation upon it. The river flowing from Mount Hermon is a perfect symbol of the depth and diabolical profundity of this Nakashian instigated corruption. Nonetheless, the mikvah, whose source was Mount Hermon, was the one Jesus used in preparation to restore life for all. Jesus began his ministry where he himself would destroy the ultimate corruption wrought on earth, death, and demonstrate himself as the one path to perfect eternal life. He demonstrated that the evil interjection of corruption that started on Mount Hermon via the Watchers, and their king would also be rectified, and the earth itself would be made clean. Before starting his ministry, Jesus, with John's assistance, did a reverse mikvah, so to speak, by immersing himself in the Jordan River. John, who was plainly identified by Jesus as Elijah, was a true high priest, and the mikvah was a requirement so that John could pass the high priesthood on to Jesus. The Jordan, whose very name reflects the corruption that visited the earth to sabotage the possibility of a true Son of Man, enveloped the living water in the person of Jesus. The event at the Jordan mikvah showed that God perfectly fulfills his promises and keeps his law, and specifically demonstrated the identity of the living or flowing water that makes all that it envelops clean, holy to God. Another parable he put forth to them, saying, "The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the grain had sprouted and produced a crop, then the tares also appeared. So the servants of the owner came and said to him, 'Sir, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have tares?' He said to them, 'An enemy has done this.' The servant said to him, 'Do you want us then to go and gather them up?' But he said, 'No, lest while you gather up the tares, you also uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn.'" Matthew 13, verse 24 to 30. The need for money as an exchange or substitution for man's life, or life spent working, came because of the fall. The grain, as the smallest unit of weight for money, symbolizes the life of man. The mikvah number consistently links issues concerning life and the eventual hope towards the reconciliation of the loss of paradise. The smallest unit and base of the traditional English weight system used for precious metals is the grain, roughly equal to the weight of 1 grain of barley. The grain, interestingly, is also standard use in projectile weights of bullets and arrowheads. Here's an example of the Nakashian need to usurp meaning. If a grain represents man, then so too will implements of death. The number of grains in a troy pound is the mikvah number, 7560. 5,760 troy grains equal 1 troy pound. Christ pays the ransom for the life of mankind with his own blood. He performs a mikvah that covers the corruption of the need for money, stemming from the fall at the Garden of Eden. The mikvah number, 5760, is associated with the planet Mars. The red planet was the stronghold of the most beautiful angel ever created, up to the point where he thought to compare himself as equal to his creator. See David Flint's Sidonia, The Secret Chronicles of Mars. The mikvah number associated with Mars points to the defeat of the Nakash's death influence over man. The measurement of a circle illustrates how the mikvah number is associated with the planet Mars. As most people know, every circle or sphere, no matter how big or small, always has 360 degrees. And each degree is 60 minutes. Most people do not know that each minute of the great circle of the Earth at its equator is the definition of 1 nautical mile. Since the Earth has 360 degrees, 360 times 60, or 21,600 nautical miles, or total minutes around the equator. Every circle or sphere has its size of a nautical mile, and there are always 21,600 of them. What is the difference in size between a Mars-based nautical mile and an Earth-based nautical mile? Or more simply, how many Earth-sized nautical miles would fit into 1 degree on Mars? The answer is 32 perfectly. The occurrence of 32 in various measurement standards are the compass rose, the freezing point of water in the Fahrenheit temperature scale, standard tire pressure in pounds per square inch, the acceleration of gravity on Earth in feet per second, and the highest Masonic degree. From the last chapter of Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, he addresses the philosophy and mysteries of the highest degree that can be earned by a Scottish Rite Freemason. The sublime prince of the royal secret, or 32nd degree, is the highest that can be achieved. A 33rd degree can only be given to a member by the Supreme Council, but not earned. 180 degrees on Mars measured using Earth-based nautical miles is 5760, or the mikvah number. 180 times 32, Earth-size minutes, equals 5760. The Amsterdam-based physicist Daniel Gabriel Fahrenheit created a new set of units to measure temperature. Apart from being useful for unifying the scientific community, this was an alchemic act. The number 32 is the key to understanding the alchemy involved. From Forbidden Secrets of the Labyrinth. Hermes, the thrice great, is the author named in the enigmatic text known as the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The oldest known source for the Emerald Tablets of Thoth was from 3,000 treatises of the Jabarian corpus written by the Muslim alchemist and astronomer known as Yaber ibn Hayyan. The corpus listed knowledge concerning music, cosmology, or chemistry, as well as the artificial generation of living creatures. Today, it is only known through the many various translations that have been rendered since it was first translated into Latin from the Arabic sometime in the 12th century. It was considered to be the base for all the secrets of alchemy, the study of the mysteries of the Kemet, the Dark Lands, whose mystery the god Thoth protected. Like Athena springing from the head of Zeus, her equivalent, Neth, came from Thoth, the Egyptian god who was the keeper of all knowledge, the Silent One. He was depicted in human form with the head of an ibis. The bird was often seen on the banks of the Nile writing in the mud with his long beak. The Greek equivalent of Thoth is Hermes, and the Roman is Mercury. The European alchemists were known as mystics who endeavored primarily to transmute base metals into gold to find the elixir of immortality. As usual, the popular understanding of the alchemists and their goals was wrapped in allegory, typical of the obfuscation methods employed by the Nakash. The true alchemist understood the source of the power that he sought was from Hermes himself. The idea of turning base metals into gold was an analogy for the continuing dedication to the mysterious conclusion, or a mysterious conclusion. The efforts towards this goal are known as the undertaking. This is stated on the dollar bill with the Latin inscription, Annuit coeptis. He nods, favors the undertaking, or effort, or beginning. The true goal of the alchemist is to make possible the physical incarnation of the light bringer on earth. Only then will the new golden age begin. The base metal will have turned into gold. Only then will men have the ability of eternal life. By this definition, those who labor to ascend the degrees of Freemasonry are also alchemists. They use the same secret language to describe the same end. Fahrenheit also knew that water had a peculiar or particular quality known as the triple point, where it could exist simultaneously in three different states, gas, liquid, and solid, but only at one specific temperature and pressure. Other elements and compounds have the same quality. Water is very special, though. The atmospheric pressure at sea level on Earth, of course, is 1 atmosphere. This pressure is too high for water's triple point to exist. There are plenty of areas on Earth where the temperature is right, but the atmospheric pressure is way too high by about 165 times. Mars, however, does have areas on its surface where water can exist at its triple point naturally, and it is the only planet in the solar system that has the right conditions of pressure and temperature. In fact, the triple point pressure of water was used during the Mariner 9 mission to Mars as a reference point to define sea level. Fahrenheit assigned the number 32 to water's triple point, and then made sure that there were precisely 180 steps or degrees on this Fahrenheit scale between the water's triple point and the water's boiling point. This is not only reflected in the red planet, the ancient abode of Hermes, aka the Nakash, in the Mikvah number, 180 times 32, but distinctly in the fact that Mars is the only planet in the solar system that has the conditions necessary for the triple point. It was a representation of the thrice great power, the Tris Majestis, the epitaph of Hermes. It's interesting to me, I think, that someone like Fahrenheit, who lived in the late 1600s and early 1700s, had this understanding about Mars. It's interesting that Gabriel Fahrenheit would do this. You can read about his life. He's a very smart individual. He did have links to nobility. Quite sure he was most likely a member of a Masonic fraternity. It's interesting what they talk about the Red Lodge, and they have been talking about the Red Lodge for hundreds of years. So finally, the moon determines the timing of the seasons and important feasts given by God to Israel and symbolizes the Messiah. The mikvah is the Earth's diameter, 7,920 miles, minus the moon, 2,160. The moon, as a symbol of the Messiah, immersed in the earth, reveals the mikvah number. The presence of the Messiah on earth redeems, purifies, and makes the earth holy to God.